and good afternoon, everybody. Well, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you guys are watching. Hello and welcome. Glad you are here. It is Sunday and we are doing Bible study. If you guys are lurking, if you happen to be a lurker in the chat, come out and just say hi real quick. I appreciate you. And an update into our unique chatter count. So I want to let you guys know. I know that it may seem confusing what a unique chatter even is. A unique chatter, for those that don't know, is somebody who comments in the chat at least once per month. So if you were on my show yesterday, if you already commented today, that counts for the month. So that's what, just one time for the month. And my phone, I realized that I forgot to turn off my Wi-Fi. There we go. So for the month of July, if you comment just one single time, that single time counts for the entire month. You don't have to comment on every single show because it won't count. Like I said, one chat, one I guess unique chat. So that's it. So if you guys commented yesterday, I appreciate you, and you did your job. Now your job is to go and recruit more people. So recruit more people and have them just come and say hi in the chat. I will continue to leave my shows open. So yeah, I will say that it's tough. It's tough for us small creators, like Eleanor just said, and you can see it here. She said, yeah, Jackie, the new rules are crazy. You, Bay Theater Dave, and EC was here, who reads the Badlands Brief 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, needs everyone. So, yeah, so it's tough, but we're going to make it work. And you guys, of course, we've got here because of you guys, and we will continue to do it because of you guys. So thank you. Hit that thumbs up. Like I said, share this show out with a friend. Have them come into the Rumble chat and say hi. They don't have to stay in the chat. You can literally just say hi once in the chat. And the other thing that I'll keep doing, like I said, is have my shows open for as long as possible before the show, so that if you just happen to see it while you're streaming or, going through Rumble, you can drop in, say hi real quick, and then that counts. So I appreciate you guys. I did that on yesterday's show with Cam. I asked for people in the chat to just come and say hi, and a lot of you guys did. So now we are at, I want to say 40 unique chatters for the month, and we have to get to 75. Typically I average around 50. So we're only on June 12th, and we, have the rest of the month to keep pushing. So thank you for helping out there. And thank you to all of our sponsors for this show. Our first sponsor of this show is a good one. It is something that we have every morning. At least most of us have every morning. And it's good to shop small business, and it's especially good when it's coffee. So thank you to Loaded Gun for sponsoring the show. This episode is fueled by Loaded Gun Coffee, veteran-owned, small batch roasted, and bold enough to actually taste as strong as it smells. They're all about quality over gimmicks, and every bag is roasted to order, so it's fresh when it hits your doorstep. You can grab your favorite roast at loadedguncoffee.com and use code JackieEspada for 10% off your order. Support small business, drink bold, and start your day the clean way with Loaded Gun Coffee. I didn't mean to click that button, sorry. But yes, thank you to Loaded Gun. We appreciate them. We love them. And if you don't have Loaded Gun in your coffee mug this morning, you're missing out. So shop Loaded Gun and make sure to use my discount code JackieEspada, and you can save some money while also supporting the cause here as well. Our next sponsor is, of course, my favorite apparel company, and they have a bunch of new merch that they just finished dropping, so it's up to you guys to go and sell them out. It is, of course, in his word. We love them, we appreciate them, and we want to thank them as well. I'm I'm so excited to tell you about In His Word, a woman-owned, family-run Christian brand from the Pacific Northwest. 3 sisters and their moms started this business out of their kitchen, creating faith-based apparel and home goods designed to keep us rooted in God's Word. Every design is prayed over, crafted by hand, and made with the mission of helping you carry Scripture into your everyday life. Whether it's a bold reminder or something more subtle that keeps your heart steady, you can shop their collection at inhisword.us and use my code Jackie Espada for $10 off orders over $70. That's inhisword.us. Faith you can wear and carry wherever you go. I almost did it again and clicked the intro button. It's tough when all the buttons are so close together. Anyways, this is Bible study for Overthinkers, and we are in Judges. Today we will be covering Judges 5 through 8. So that is going to be a good one. We started Judges on Thursday, and the book of Judges opened immediately after Joshua's death. So Joshua ended with one of the most complete statements of divine faithfulness in the whole Old Testament. And what that statement was not one of God's promises has failed. So Judges opens with that same generation dying off, and then right away, Judges 2:10 lands like a stone. It says, another generation rose up who did not know the Lord or the works he had done for Israel. So they didn't lose a war, or they weren't conquered, or anything like that. What happened was they just stopped passing the story down. So in chapter 1, we saw the tribal report card. So that was a long accumulating list of tribes that failed to drive out the Canaanites. So that was chapter 1. Chapter 2 gave us the theological framework for the whole book. It gave us something called the Deuteronomic cycle. So this is, evil. Evil happens, and then oppression. We have the crying out of the people. A judge comes. When the judge comes, they get rest. And then they repeat everything that happens because the judge dies off. And it's almost worse than before. So that is the cycle that we will continue to see play out through Judges. Chapter 3 introduces our first 3 judges. We have O'Neill, who is the template judge. We have Ehud, who is the left-handed assassin. And then we have Shamgar, who only had 1 verse, but in that 1 verse, 600 Philistines, and they were all dead because of an ox goad. So that was chapter 3, and then chapter 4 brought us Deborah and Barak. So Deborah was the prophetess judge who functioned without the text apologizing for her gender. And then we have Barak, who wouldn't go without her. So that's where we are now. Today we are going to get into the song. We're going to get into the prophet, the hidden man, the fleece, 300 men, and the man who said the Lord will rule over you, and then acted like a king anyway. So this is where we're starting, Judges 5. I hope that you guys are ready for it. If you guys haven't already, make sure to please hit that thumbs up. Share this show out with a friend. Say hi in the chat if you are lurking. We're looking for unique chatters, and we're almost to our goal of 75. We are about halfway there, as Bon Jovi would say. I'm not going to quote it because I don't want to get copyright infringement. But anyways, we need unique chatters. So text a friend. Let them know in chats that we're here. We need people to come and say hi. So yeah, message your neighbor. Send a text to your neighbor if they have Rumble. At least we're looking for people who have Rumble accounts. So if your neighbor has a Rumble account, have them come and say hi in the chat. Anyways, Judges 5. Judges 5 is where we are now, and I realize I forgot to do something. So let me do that real quick. Jeez. So, there it is. All right. So Judges 5. Before we get into 5, though, chapter 4 told you what happened at the Battle of Kishon in prose. Now, in chapter 5, it's going to tell us the same exact story, but more in a poetic style. So the poetry that we're going to get into reveals things the prose didn't. So who showed up, who didn't, what God did cosmically, and then it ends with one of the most devastating and compassionate portraits in all of Judges. So that is going to be a good one, and here we go. Before we get into it, I'm reading from the She Reads Truth Bible. This is the Christian Standard Bible. You can find this and all of my other Amazon favorites in the description of this video. And you can actually shop and actually don't even need to buy anything from my store from itself. All you have to do is click on the link that says Amazon, and you can shop whatever you want, and I will get the credit for it. So appreciate Amazon for making it so easy. All you have to do is click the link and shop. So, Deborah and Barak. This is Deborah's song. So let's hear what the song says. Chapter 5. On that day, Deborah and Barak, son of Abinoam, sang. So, immediately after the victory, this is exactly after they did their victory thing, they sing together. And that's interesting because the man, Barak, who wouldn't go without the prophetess, sings the victory song with her. So whatever his hesitation cost him in individual honor, he is now present here in praise. So the community of gratitude includes him, even if he didn't want to be. He was afraid before. Also, this song that we are about to read or listen to, because you may not be reading along, and that's fine. This is the second greatest victory song in the Bible. So the first was Moses and Miriam right after the Red Sea, or at the Red Sea in Exodus 15. That song followed the sea closing over Pharaoh's chariots. This song follows the Kishon River sweeping over Sisera's chariots. So you see that same symbolism there. So the structural parallel is obviously very intentional, and the narrator wants you to hear Deborah's song as the Red Sea song of a new generation. So that is setting up for what we're about to read here. So let's jump into Deborah's song. Verse 2. When the leaders lead in Israel, when the people volunteer, blessed be the Lord. Listen, kings. Pay attention, princes. I will sing to the Lord. I will sing praise to the Lord God of Israel. Lord, when you came from Seir, when you marched from the fields of Edom, the earth trembled, the skies poured rain, and the clouds poured water. The mountains melted before the Lord, even Sinai, before the Lord, the God of Israel. So, the song here opens with a call to praise grounded in two things. We have when the leaders lead in Israel and when the people volunteer. And it's interesting because volunteer means they're coming willingly. They're not under any type of, duress or compulsion, anything like that. Their presence in a battle or in the battle was a form of worship. So that's interesting to note there. Next part, we see this song describing God himself entering the battle. Coming from Sinai, which is the south, the direction of the original covenant making. So the cosmic elements respond to this, and we'll see that here because it says the earth trembles, the skies pour, and the mountains melt. So this is the vocabulary of God's physical presence in the world. This is the same imagery that appeared back in Deuteronomy 33 when Moses was getting the blessing. We also saw this in Psalms 68. And then we haven't seen this last one, so I won't mention it just yet. But we have three of the same type of imagery in three different parts of the Bible. All right, I just had a thing in my throat. So the Song of Deborah is one of the oldest pieces of literature in the entire Bible. Scholars often date it back to around the 12th century BC. So that's, I mean, that's pretty cool. Just a little tidbit that I found out while I was um, st- studying and searching and doing research about all of this. But yeah, so that's what we've got there. Let's keep going. We're on verse 6. Let's see what happens next. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the main roads were deserted because travelers kept to the side roads. Villages were deserted because they were deserted in Israel, until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel. Israel chose new gods. Then there was war in the city gates. Not a shield or spear was seen among 40,000 in Israel. My heart is with the leaders of Israel, with the volunteers of the people. Blessed be the Lord. So, I like that Deborah includes this here. We pause to describe the conditions before Deborah was brought up. We have the main roads being deserted, villages were empty, Israel had chosen new gods, and then there was war at the city gates. And then on top of all of that, it also mentions that not a shield or a spear was found amongst 40,000. That's basically telling us that there was total vulnerability. You know, there was a cause. The cause of everything was because Israel chose new gods. But it's, one of those simple cause and effect things. We have the cause being that they deserted God and they found new gods. And the effect of that was that they were completely vulnerable. So I can appreciate that. And then Deborah was risen up. So that I can appreciate. And then I love the little bit of language that says a mother in Israel. That's obviously Deborah's self-description, and I'm a big fan because, you gotta pump yourself up a little bit. All right, let's keep going. Verse 10. You who ride on white donkeys, who sit on saddle blankets, and who travel on the road, give praise. Let them tell the righteous acts of the Lord, the righteous deeds of his villagers in Israel, with the voices of the singers at the watering places. Then the Lord's people went down to the city gates. Awake, awake, Deborah. Awake, awake, sing a song. Arise, Barak, and tell your prisoners, son of Abinoam. Then the survivors came down to the nobles. The Lord's people came down to me against the warriors. So I like this. The song, now we see it broadening just a little bit to invite participation into the recounting. So those who ride white donkeys, those are, for those that don't know, those are the wealthy traveling in peace. And I saw what Tracy said in the chat. She says, I've never seen a white donkey. Now that you say it, I don't think I have either. But let's look. Let's look to see. Oh, they're cute. Let's go here. Let's upload this screen capture. Here we go. So we got ourselves a little white donkey. Look how cute. Like, I like this. This one's funny. That one's funny. But this one has like a nice little face. So let's open image in new tab so we can see it. Oh, wow. Look at that face. His eyes are a little creepy, but it's cool, I guess. So, yeah. It is cute, right? Cute little white donkey. Albino donkeys. But if you think about it, just like nowadays, like if we had an albino animal, it's going to be more expensive than a regular animal. So I think that's kind of what they meant there. What, having the white donkeys just means that they're wealthy, they're traveling in peace, that kind of thing. So all of these people that they mention, it's basically including every social class, every type of traveler. They're called to declare the righteous acts at the Lord at the watering places. So I love that they include that. Then it keeps going, and it says, then the Lord's people went down to the city gates. So the reverse here is total. They went from hiding in caves to now standing at the city gates. So the righteous acts of God restore what apostasy destroyed. So little by little, recounting the tales of how the people of Israel have been slowly but surely getting to, the places and back to telling people about God. Next up, verse 14 says, those with their roots in Amalek came from Ephraim. Benjamin came with their people after you. The leaders came down from Machir, and those who carry a marshal's staff came from Zebulun. The princes of Issachar were with Deborah. Issachar was with Barak. They were under his leadership in the valley. There was great searching of heart among the clans of Reuben. Galeed remaining beyond the Jordan. Dan, why did you linger at the ships? Asher remained at the seashore and stayed in his harbors. The people of Zebulun defied death. Naphtali also on the heights of the battlefield. So this right here, this is the part of the song where we kind of dig into public accountability. It's a little politically charged because she's naming every single tribe, and the grades that they all receive are they're not all the same. So, we have the people who showed up, and then we have the tribes that didn't show up. It's interesting. So the people who showed up, we had Ephraim, those with roots in Amalek, they came. So that's the hill country. We have Benjamin, they came. Machir, that's Manasseh's military clan. Their leaders came down. Zebulun, they all came. Issachar, Naphtali, and Zebulun, they all came. And it's interesting that Zebulun also defied death. It's pretty cool. They're named again in verse 18. So they're named Zebulun is named twice. So that. And then we have the slackers, like ZBM said. We have the slackers who didn't show up. So we have Reuben, who didn't show up. Great searching of heart, but stayed among the sheep, listening to the playing of pipes for the flocks. So they talked about it, they deliberated, and they didn't come. We have Galeed, which is East Manasseh. We also have Dan, and it's interesting because Dan says, why do you linger at the ships? So obviously they were more concerned about making money and their economic interests than coming to be with the people. That's interesting. And then we have Asher. They also remained. And same thing as Dan. The economic interests over covenant obligations were what they were more interested in. So there's that. Then, verse 18. Verse 18 gives the highest honor to Zebulun and Naphtali. The people who defy death is what they say. These are the same two tribes whose territory will be identified in Isaiah 9:1 as the land of great light. So we'll get there later on, but it's interesting. Another one of those Bible connections that we see throughout. We talk about them basically every single time we come together, how there's different connections throughout the Bible. So it's cool to be able to see those in real time. But yeah, that's those who showed up and those that didn't show up. So let's see what we get into next. Verse 19 it says, Kings came and fought. Then the kings of Canaan fought at Taanach by the waters of Megiddo, but they did not plunder the silver. The stars fought from the heavens. The stars fought with Sisera from their paths. The river Kishon swept them away. The ancient river, the river Kishon. March on, my soul and strength. The horse's hooves then hammered the galloping of his stallions. So let's pause there before we get into the curse, because actually what I'll do is I'll read the curse and then we'll do the whole thing together. But curse Meroz, says the angel of the Lord. Bitterly curse her inhabitants, for they did not come to help the Lord with the warriors. So before we get into the curse, the battle itself is described in cosmic terms. So the kings of Canaan fought at Taanach by the waters of Megiddo, and then it talks about the stars fighting. The stars fighting. That's kind of, I mean, just thinking about that. You know, the stars are being depicted here as active participants in the battle. You know, they're fighting on Israel's behalf from their courses in the heavens. This is, you know, really, this is not primitive mythology. It is truly ancient poetic vocabulary of divine sovereignty, in my opinion. You know, when God fights, everything in creation is his instrument. So we've got stars, we've got rivers, we have rain, we have the earth itself trembling. Every single element of the physical world is enrolled in God's battle when God chooses to act. So the Kishon River, which is normally a modest seasonal stream, becomes a torrent during this battle, likely because of all the heavy rains. But the iron chariots that made Sisera's army invisible on dry, flat ground became death traps in the mud of a flooding river. So it's really cool to be able to see, you know, the cosmicness. I don't think that's a word, but just the gratitude that I have to know that God can literally move mountains and rivers and shake the earth to kind of prove a point. I mean, I wouldn't want to mess with him, but that's just me. You guys in the chat, you guys let me know. Would you want to mess with that? I'm just saying. It doesn't sound like something I would want to do. All right, but the curse, chapter 5, verse 23, we have a single verse, and it's honestly one of the sharpest rebukes in this whole song. Meroz, we don't know, they don't ever get mentioned again. They were never mentioned before, and they'll never be mentioned again, but it may have been a small town during or near the battlefield whose inhabitants could have joined the battle, but they didn't. They get cursed, and it is pretty intense. It is also brought down and commanded, pronounced, I guess is the correct word, pronounced by an angel of the Lord. So this is obviously divine intervention, if you will. So I'm a big fan. So it's not something that is, you know, something that is light, should be taken lighthearted. Essentially, this is coming straight from God's mouth, and I would hate to be Meroz. Anyways, the lesson here is when God says that you should be showing up, you should probably just show up. Don't sit back and wait. But that's just me. All right, let's keep going. Verse 24 says, most blessed of women is Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. She is most blessed among tent-dwelling women. He asked for water. She gave him milk. She brought him cream in a majestic bowl. She reached for a tent peg, her right hand for a workman's hammer. Then she hammered Sisera. She crushed his head. She stammered and pierced his temple. He collapsed. He fell. He lay down between her feet. He collapsed. He fell between her feet. Where he collapsed, there he fell, dead. This is an interesting way of kind of putting it on. Of course, it helps to remember that this is a poem. This is a poem, or at least a song, right? So we have, you know, Jael's act that we saw in chapter 4 in prose, and now we see it here in chapter 5 as a poem. And the thing is that, you know, the poetry here is slower, it's more deliberate and more violent in its verbal repetition. So, the fact that like it just lays it out so clearly. She reached for the tent peg, her right hand for the workman's hammer. She hammered Sisera. She crushed his head. So, yeah, it really is just, hammering it home, I guess, literally. But, the triple repetition of collapsed/fell is Hebrew poetry doing what poetry does, slowing the reader down, making us inhabit the moment and feeling the weight of what happened. That's pretty intense, having someone's tent peg go through your head. I wouldn't want that. And I would probably I don't know. I wouldn't do that. Claire in the chat said, okay, well, first off, yes, Amber, you are correct. And I appreciate you for reminding me this. The angel of the Lord is pre-incarnate Jesus. Correct. That we've talked about this before, but thank you for bringing that up again. Claire Cat said, look what just posted on the Vigilant Fox Telegram channel. Okay. What happens when you read the Bible? That's interesting. Let's see. 4 times a week. What happens when you read the Bible 4 times a week? Interesting. I'll have to check this out. Thank you, Claire, for sending that over. I have it up and I will look at it after the show. Yeah, Tracy, tent pegs were deadly back in the day. I mean, they probably still are. We probably just don't hear about tent peg deaths as much as back then, because why would we? Just saying. Anyways, let's keep going. We are on verse 28 now. So it says, Sisera's mother looked through the window. She peered through the lattice, crying out, why is his chariot so long in coming? Why don't I hear the hoofbeats of his horses? Her wisest princesses answer her. She even answers herself. Are they not finding and dividing the spoil, a girl or 2 for each warrior? The spoil of colored garments for Sisera, the spoil of an embroidered garment or 2 for my neck. So, interesting turn here. We hear, we're going through and we're talking about the story, and then we talk about Sisera's mom and his mom waiting for him in the window. Interesting. But I also think that this kind of humanizes him. So it humanizes the enemy. The woman at the window is a mother waiting for her son. She doesn't know he's dead. We know because we've read the story. But the tension that we get there is pretty devastating. Secondly, we see something. Well, we have her imagined explanation reveals what Sisera's army would have been doing to the Israelite women if they had won. So God knew what he was doing, because it even says here, are they not finding and dividing the spoil, a girl or 2 for each warrior? That's, it's basically telling us right then that this is what would have happened to Deborah, to Jael, to every Israelite woman. The victory that looks like one woman's brutal attack was the prevention of a mass sexual violence against an entire population. So, I mean, it may seem harsh that, Jael went out there and killed someone, but would it have been worse had the people won, Sisera's army won, and then raped and pillaged the entire village? I don't know. I guess I'd take the one woman standing up and driving a tent peg through his head. So that's just me. But the third thing that we see is the wisest woman who counsels her are as blind as she is. Their wisdom cannot see what God has done. So the song ends here with a mother who will never stop waiting. So This is not cruelty or anything. This is just honesty. This is raw. This is emotion. So that's what we've got. And then our closing prayer, and this is where we'll end chapter 5, says, Lord, may all your enemies perish as Sisera did, but may those who love him be like the rising of the sun in its strength. And the land had peace for 40 years. So we close with a prayer and a statement, and the contrast here is pretty great. So enemies perish like Sisera, unexpectedly under a blanket at the hand of someone they trusted. And then we have those who love God rise like the sun at full strength. That's pretty great, if I may say so myself. It's unexpected, but it's okay, because for those who love God, we have a rising sun. And then we end with a promise. The song ends and we close with 40 years of rest. This right here is the same as O'Neill's piece that we saw back in chapter 3. So that's pretty cool, and let's see what happens next. Chapter 6 is where we are going to be picking up now. So here we go. Chapter 6 is going to talk about the Midianite oppression. I don't know. I guess we can just get into it, and then we'll talk about it. So, Midian oppresses Israel. Chapter 6. The Israelites did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord handed them over to Midian 7 years, and they oppressed Israel. Because of Midian, the Israelites made hiding places for themselves in the mountains, caves, and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and the people of the east came and attacked them. They encamped among them and destroyed the produce of the land, even as far as Gaza. They left nothing for Israel to eat, as well as no sheep, ox, or donkey. For the Midianites came with their cattle and their tents, like a great swarm of locusts. They and their camels were without number, and they entered the land to lay waste to it. So Israel became poverty-stricken because of Midian, and the Israelites cried out to the Lord. So, interesting. The cycle is restarting. Israel does evil. God hands them over to Midian for 7 years. But this oppression works differently from the previous one. Midian doesn't conquer Israel's cities. What they do is they destroy Israel's food supply. Every time Israel planted crops, the Midianites, the Amalekites, and people of the east came and destroyed it all. So it's also interesting because they compare them to a great swarm of locusts. So a locust swarm doesn't occupy. What it does is it just consumes and it passes through and leaves nothing left behind. Midian operated in almost the exact same way. They're nomadic raiders who hit the harvest season every year and then strip the land clean before moving on. So the result of that is Israel became poverty-stricken, and it literally means that, people who enter the land of milk and honey are now starving. Kind of crazy. The same land that overflowed is now stripped year after year because Israel abandoned the God who gave it to them. So think about this next time you decide you're going to do something. Make sure that you're not stripping yourself of the design that God already planted for your life. It's tough, but we can do it. All right, verse 7. Verse 7 says, chapter 6, verse 7, for those that are just joining us. Also, if you're just joining us, say hi in the chat. We would love to see you. If you have any questions or concerns or would like to just say anything at all, feel free to drop in the chat and I'll read them. Verse 7. When the Israelites cried out to him because of Midian, the Lord sent a prophet to them. He said to them, "This is what the Lord God of Israel says. I brought you out of Egypt and out of the place of slavery. I rescued you from the power of Egypt and the power of all who oppressed you. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not fear the gods of the Amorites whose land you live in. But you did not obey me. So Israel cries out. This is the same cycle. Remember, we're starting the same cycle again. They do bad. They're oppressed. They cry out. God then sends a prophet. He doesn't, and that's the thing. He doesn't immediately send one. He sends a prophet. And the prophet's message is not that of encouragement. In fact, what it is more of an indictment. A compressed recitation of everything God did. He brought you out of Egypt. He rescued you from oppression. He drove out your enemies. He gave you their land. And then the verdict. He says, I am the Lord your God. Do not fear the gods of the Amorites whose land you live in, but you did not obey me. So, you may be thinking, why did he send a prophet before a judge? The reason why is because deliverance without diagnosis produces the same cycle. So if Israel is rescued without understanding why they needed rescuing, they'll just keep doing it. And so the prophet's sermon functions as a mirror. And only then does God move to release or raise a deliverer. So this is a big moment, a big shift. And let's see what happens next. Verse 11. The angel of the Lord came, and he sat under the oak that was in Ophrah, which belongs to Joash, the Abiezrite. I think that's it. His son Gideon was threshing wheat in the winepress in order to hide it from the Midianites. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, The Lord is with you, valiant warrior. Gideon said to him, Please, my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? And where are all his wonders that our answers told us about? They said, Hasn't the Lord brought us out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and handed us over to Midian. So the angel of the Lord comes to Ophrah, sits under the oak, and it makes sense. But it's weird. It makes sense because we just read about it in the last few verses that Midian, anytime that there was a harvest, they came through, ransacked all of the goods and took them for themselves. So what is Gideon doing? He is threshing wheat in a wine press. Wheat is normally threshed on a hilltop. You need the wind to blow the chaff away from the grain. So you need that extra wind. A wine press is usually underground. It's usually sheltered, hidden from view. You cannot thresh effectively in a wine press because you need the air. But you can do it invisibly. That's the whole big thing there. Gideon is hiding, doing the work of survival in the most concealed place available. What he's doing, he's not a warrior preparing for battle. He is a frightened farmer trying to save enough grain to be able to eat. The angel looks at this man and says that the Lord is with him and calls him a valiant warrior. A valiant warrior is typically a term used for professional fighting men, experienced soldiers, men of proven military valor. I don't think Gideon is that guy. Gideon is literally threshing wheat in a hole in the ground. The disconnect between the title and the reality is one of the most pointed ironies in Judges. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. But Gideon's response is interesting. He doesn't start off by saying thank you. Gideon's first words to the angel of the Lord are a theological complaint. He says, where are the miracles? Why have you left us? I don't know what's going on. This is not faithlessness. This is a man who knows the story, whose ancestors told him about the Exodus, and is now living in a reality that seems to contradict it. So he is just asking the honest questions here. He's not he's just trying to understand, wrap his head around what's going on. And the thing is that the angel of the Lord doesn't rebuke him for asking these questions, which is a cool thing. So let's keep going. We have verse 14 now. It says, the Lord turned to him and said, go in the strength you have and deliver Israel from the grasp of Midian. I am sending you. He said to him, please, Lord, how can I deliver Israel? Look, my family is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the youngest in my father's family. But I will be with you, the Lord said to him. You will strike Midian down as if I were one man. That's pretty loaded language there, guys. We have the Lord saying, go, I already got you. We're good. You already won. And Gideon is like, what? You sure? I'm the weakest clan and the youngest in my family. That's 2 layers of smallness stacked on top of each other. And God responds and says, I will be with you. Just go. I got you. This is the same answer God gave Moses at the burning bush. It's the answer God gave Joshua at the beginning of Joshua. The answer to human inadequacy is never a reassessment of human capacity. It is always the same. My presence is with you. I got you. So he also says, go in the strength you have. He's not saying, go get more strength, go get back up. No. Go with what you have. And even though he's hiding in a wine press, that's more than enough because he has God on his side. And that's a reminder to each and every one of us too. The battle may seem like so much bigger than us, so much scarier than us, all of those things. But guess what? With God on our side, we can literally do anything and be victorious because of God. So I'm a big fan of that. I know that you guys are too, hopefully. Let's keep going. Verse 17. Then he said to him, if I have found favor with you, give me a sign that you are speaking with me. Please do not leave this place until I return to you. Let me bring my gift and set it before you. And he said, I will stay until you return. So Gideon went and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread from a half bushel of flour. He placed the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot. He brought them out and offered them to him under the oak. The angel of God said to him, take the meat with the unleavened bread, put it on the stone and pour the broth on it. So he did that. The angel of the Lord extended the tip of the staff that was in his hand and touched the meat and the unleavened bread. Fire came up from the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened bread. Then the angel of the Lord vanished from his sight. When Gideon realized that he was the angel of the Lord, he said, Oh no, Lord God, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face. But the Lord said to him, Peace to you. Don't be afraid, for you will not die. So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it, The Lord is Peace. It is still in Ophrah in the Abiezrites. Yeah, today. I don't know how to say that one. But that's pretty intense. Gideon asks for a sign. And that's I think we've all been there, asking God, like, hey, God, is this really you? Let me know if this is really you. And he prepares an offering. Gideon does. He prepares a young goat, unleavened bread, and broth. He sets it all on a rock, and the angel touches it with the tip of his staff, and fire springs up from the rock, consumes everything, and the angel vanishes. That's pretty intense. Like, if that's a sign if I've ever seen one. That right there is pretty cool. And then Gideon realized what just happened. He realizes that he saw the angel of the Lord's face. So he also remembers, and we talked about this in Exodus 33. The tradition said you couldn't see God's face and live. God's response here, though, is to just say peace to you. Don't be afraid, for you will not die. Because Gideon knows the consequence of seeing the Lord's face. So in the middle of oppression, in the middle of hiding man's terror, in the moment of meeting of divine, the altar that is then made and set up by Gideon is named Yahweh Shalom, or the Lord is peace. The name of the altar, obviously, is the theological center of the whole call narrative. Before any battle plan, before any army is ever assembled, the Lord is peace. And that's the first thing Gideon declares after meeting God. So now let's go ahead and keep going. We're not done yet with chapter 6. We have just a few more verses left, and then we'll pause for a quick commercial break before we keep going. Let's see. Gideon tears down a Baal altar. More balls. And I still have to, this week what I'll do is I'll make sure to make that shirt design. I have a few shirt designs that I'll do this week. Yeah. And then I'll set up a shop and everything if you guys want to buy them. Also, we'll talk about this during the commercial break. Anyways, Gideon tears down a Baal altar. Verse 25. On that very night, the Lord said to him, take your father's young bull and a second bull 7 years old. Then tear down the altar of Baal that belongs to your father and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Build a well-constructed altar to the Lord your God on the top of this mound. Take the second bull and offer it as a burnt offering with the wood of the Asherah pole you cut down. So Gideon took 10 of his male servants and did as the Lord had told him. But because he was too afraid of his father's family and the men of the city to do it in the daytime, he did it at night. When the men of the city got up in the morning, they found Baal's altar torn down, the Asherah pole beside it cut down, and the second bull offered up on the altar that had been built. They said to each other, who did this? After they made a thorough investigation, they said, Gideon, son of Joash, did it. Then the men of the city said to Joash, bring out your son. He must die because he tore down Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. But Joash said to all who stood against him, would you plead Baal's case for him? Would you save him? Whoever pleads his case will be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him plead his own case, because someone tore down his altar. That day Gideon was called Jerubbaal. I think that's how you say that. Since Joash said, let Baal contend with him, because he tore down his altar. That's pretty intense. So, that same night, after meeting face to face with the angel of the Lord, God gives Gideon his first assignment. Not go and fight, none of that. He tells them specifically, tear down your father's altar, cut down the Asherah pole, and build an altar to the Lord, and then use the wood as fuel for the offering. So he's dealing with the internal conflict before he deals with the external conflict. This is obviously getting to the root of it. And Gideon does it. He does. But he just does it at night because he's a little scared. And this is, one of the most honest details about Gideon. He obeys, but he obeys afraid. But the thing is that fear doesn't disqualify him. The obedience that he has outweighs the fear that would have ultimately stopped him from being completely faithful and obedient. So I think that's a lesson to all of us. You may not feel super confident to do the thing that God is telling you to do, just like I don't always feel super confident coming on here every week to do Bible study. I don't always feel like I'm the most qualified to do this, and I still show up because I know that that's what God is calling me to do. So I am so grateful to be here, and I appreciate you guys for being here each and every week, because I wouldn't be able to do it without you. That is for sure. So thank you. I wanna see if what this name sounds like. Um, let's see. Oh, my package was delivered. Let's see. Jerubal. I want to make sure I say his name right, because it seems like it's gonna come back. This is Judges 6. It's fine. I'll come back to it whenever. And if I say it wrong, oh well. You guys can tell me in the chat if it's wrong. Let's see. Verse 33. The sign of the fleece. The sign of the fleece. Let's see. All the Midianites, Amalekites, and the people of the east gathered together, crossed over the Jordan, and camped in the Jezreel Valley. The Spirit of the Lord enveloped Gideon, and he blew the ram's horn, and the Abiezrites rallied behind him. He sent messengers throughout all of Manasseh, who rallied behind him. He also sent messengers throughout Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, who also came to meet him. So, we got the Midian coalition assembling in the Jezreel Valley, the same valley where Deborah's battle was fought, the same geography of oppression and deliverance. It's repeating. So, then it says the Spirit of the Lord enveloped Gideon. And if we look at the footnote that is in the Christian Standard Bible, it says that the Hebrew is literally clothed. So the Spirit of the Lord clothed himself with Gideon. Gideon here becomes the garment through which the Spirit acts. So that happens, and then Gideon immediately blows the ram's horn. His own clan, Abiezer, rallies behind him, and he sends messengers to Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali. They all come. The men who thrashed wheat in a winepress is now commanding an army, guys. Let's see what happens next. I'm super excited. Let's see. Verse 36, and actually this is where we will be finishing up chapter 6 before we pause for a quick break. So verse 36. Then Gideon said to God, "If you will deliver Israel by me, as you said, I will put a wool fleece here on the threshing floor. If dew is only on the fleece and all the ground is dry, I will know that you will deliver Israel by me, as you said." And that is what happened. When he got up early in the morning, he squeezed the fleece and wrung dew out of it, filling a bowl with water. Gideon then said to God, "Don't be angry with me. Let me speak one more time. Please allow me to make one more test with the fleece. Let it remain dry and the dew be all over the ground." That night, God did as Gideon requested. Only the fleece was dry and dew was all over the ground. So, before they get into battle, Gideon asks God for 2 more signs. So the first sign was that dew would be on the fleece only, and that the ground would be dry. That happens. Sign 2, fleece is dry, dew all over the ground. And of course, God does it again. So, the fleece. Why are we bringing this up? And it's the most famous thing about Gideon, but it's also probably one of the most misapplied passages in Christian practice. So it's, a lot of people say I'm putting out a fleece as a decision-making method. So a few things though. First, God already gave Gideon signs. We have the fire from the rock in just a few verses back, verse 21. He's asking for more confirmation on top of confirmed confirmation. The second thing, notice what Gideon says here. He says, "Don't be angry with me." So he already knows that he's asking for too much. He asks it anyway, and God answers it anyway. The grace here is that God accommodates Gideon's weaknesses without endorsing his method. So that is a great little segue now, place for us to pause. let's go ahead and pause here real quick. Thank our next sponsor, which is Tamarack Garden. We love them. We appreciate them. And we will be right back.
Summer is an adventure and bugs are relentless. As an herbalist, I know you don't need harsh chemicals to protect your family. Here at Tamarack Garden, we've got you covered with natural sunscreen, mosquito and tick repellent that's even safe for your pets, a salve to draw out bug bites, and soothing sunburn cream, all made with the power of plants. Because we think summer memories should last longer than the bug bites. Tamarack Garden. Protect your family naturally and eat your weeds.
Thank you to Tamarack Garden. Actually, I was just talking to Michelle yesterday. She's actually going to be on Alpha's Makes Sandwiches with us tomorrow. So come and check that out. We're going to have a good time. And they were actually just at the Macklemore concert this weekend. They were vendors at the Macklemore concert. So that is pretty freaking cool, if you ask me. She said they had lots of people watching. So that's pretty cool. All right. Make sure that I don't have any more ads that I need to get to. Let's see. I think we're good. We will be going on to Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is where we are going next. And why is this a thing? Yeah. Anyways, Chapter 7. Chapter 7, this is actually pretty cool. We're going to see God selecting the army now and see what happens with army selection, because this is not normal. This is not normal, and it could only be God. It could only be God, because you'll see. But anyways, Chapter 7, God selects Gideon's army. Jerubbaal. Is that right? Okay. Okay. Cam said that he looked it up his mom looked it up during the commercial break, and they said it's supposed to sound like Jerusalem. So Jerubbaal. Jerubbaal, that is Gideon. Same person. Just a new name. Just kind of like the other guys that we've seen throughout the Bible so far with new names. But anyways, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all the troops who were with him got up early and camped beside the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them, below the hills of Morah, in the valley. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many troops for me to hand the Midianites over to them, or else Israel might elevate themselves over me and say, 'I saved myself.' Now announce to the troops, 'Whoever is fearful and trembling may turn back and leave Mount Gilead.' So 22,000 of the troops turned back, but 10,000 remained." That's wild. First off, Gideon, who is now Jerubbaal, camps by the spring. Midian is camped in the valley north. God tells them, "Look, I say, you have too many troops for me to hand you over." So the problem with 32,000 men is not military. It's theological. With 32,000 men, Israel might win and think that they were the cause of it. So the first cut that we're going to get is anyone who is afraid. And 22,000 people leave. Imagine if that was your army. You start off with 32,000 men, and then 22,000 of those people leave because they're afraid. Excuse me? What? Why did you even sign up? If you were afraid, why did you even come? Okay. Well, but that's the same thing. We saw this before. Deuteronomy 28, the war laws. You remember? They literally say that those who are afraid and faint-hearted should go home. So they don't make others afraid. So this is something that is in the rule book. Gideon is following the rule book, but it's a strange rule to have. But it's okay. God is specifically doing it to reduce the size of the army. So let's see what happens next. That's 68% of the army, by the way. They just go home. But that's not the end. We're cutting some more people. Let's see how many we're cutting next. Then the Lord said to Gideon, "There are still too many troops. Take them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. If I say to you, this one can go with you, he can go. But if I say about anyone, this one cannot go with you, he cannot go." So he brought the troops down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, "Separate everyone who laps water with his tongue like a dog. And do the same with everyone who kneels to drink." The number of those who lapped with their hands to their mouths was 300 men, and all the rest of the troops knelt to drink water. The Lord said to Gideon, "I will deliver you with the 300 men who lapped and hand the Midianites over to you, but everyone else is to go home." So Gideon sent all the Israelites to their tents, but kept the 300 troops who took the provisions and their ram's horns. The camp of Gideon was below him in the valley. So, oh gosh. So 10,000 men to 300 men. You know, this is an observation test. Now we're observing how they drink. Those who lap water with their tongue like a dog, those are only 300 people. Those are the ones that are going to be staying. Everyone that knelt down to drink, which was in the thousands, they're all let go. It's interesting. The reason, it's often debated because we don't know the actual reason why he chose the people that lapped from their hands versus those that actually knelt down. But if you think about it, in my opinion, those who kind of lapped, took the water and brought it up to their hands like that, their mouth stayed alert, their eyes stayed up, and they were watching and looking around for their enemy. So it makes sense why those were the people who would come and get to fight. Those who knelt and put their face to the water, they're temporarily blind. They don't, cause, when you do the thing, you're bending down. You lose your sight. So the lappers, the lappers were tactically superior because they kept their wits about them and they kept their visuals on the horizon. So that's interesting there. But we'll see what the Midianite army is going to do and what is going to happen next. This is honestly one of my favorite stories. Not gonna lie, this is pretty cool. Anyways, Gideon spies on the Midianite camp. Verse 9 of chapter 7. That night the Lord said to him, "Get up and attack the camp, for I have handed it over to you. But if you are afraid to attack the camp, go down with Purah, your servant. Listen to what they say, and then you will be encouraged to attack the camp." So he went down with Purah, his servant, to the outpost of the troops who were in the camp. Now the Midianites, Amalekites, and all the people of the east had settled down in the valley like a swarm of locusts, and their camels were as innumerable as the sand on the seashore. We've heard that before. When Gideon arrived, there was a man telling his friend about a dream. He said, "Listen, I had a dream. A loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp, struck a tent, and it fell. The loaf turned the tent upside down so that it collapsed." His friend answered, This is nothing less than the sword of Gideonite, son of Joash, the Israelite. God has handed the entire Midianite camp over to him." That's cool. So anyways, God tells Gideon, "You're going to go attack. I've handed them over." And he accommodates Gideon's fear again. He says he doesn't have to go alone. You can bring your servant. And he is to spy on the enemy first. So Gideon goes, he, overhears two soldiers talking about a dream. And the dream is specifically about a loaf of barley bread. And the barley bread, for those that don't know, Barley was the poor man's grain. Wheat was more valuable. So a loaf of cheap bread tumbling in and destroying a military tent. The imagery is perfectly fitted to Gideon's situation. He is the weakest from the weakest clan, the hidden wheat thresher, and he is about to come and destroy the most formidable opposition. So the Midianites, seems like they're afraid. They're afraid of Gideon before he is even attacking. And this is kind of that same pattern that we saw with Rahab's confession back in Joshua 2. So not this back, because we're in Judges now, but back in Joshua. Remember Rahab? It's kind of have that same thing. God's reputation precedes his action, and the enemy's fear is already doing battle before Israel even lifts a finger. So I love it. This is just how God works. And if he's working like this for these people, what's to say he's not doing the same thing for us? Just saying. All right. Verse 15. Gideon attacks the Midianites. The story's about to get good. All right. When Gideon heard the account of the dream and its interpretation, he bowed in worship. He returned to Israelites' camp and said, "Get up, for the Lord has handed the Midianite camp over to you." Then he divided the 300 men into 3 companies and gave each of the men a ram's horn in one hand and an empty pitcher with a torch inside it in the other hand. "Watch me," he said to them, "and do what I do. When I come to the outpost of the camp, do as I do. When I and everyone with me blow our ram's horns, you are also to blow your ram's horns all around the camp. Then you will say, 'For the Lord and for Gideon.'" Gideon and the 100 men who were with him went to the outpost of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, after the sentries had been stationed. They blew their ram's horns and broke the pitchers that were in their hands. The 3 companies blew their ram's horns and shattered their pitchers. They held their torches in their left hands and their ram's horns to blow in their right hands, and they shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." Each Israelite took his position around the camp, and the entire Midianite army began to run, and they cried out as they fled. When Gideon's men blew their 300 ram's horns, and the Lord caused the men in the whole army to turn on each other with their swords, they fled to Acacia House in the direction of Zererah, as far as the borders of Abel Meholah near Tabith. Then the men of Israel were called from Naphtali, Asher, and Manasseh, and they pursued the Midianites. Talk about a cool story, guys. What? So Gideon divides his 300 people into 3 separate companies. Each man gets a ram's horn in one hand. He gets an empty pitcher with a torch inside it in the other. So at the beginning of the middle watch, that's around 10 p.m., when the guards have changed and were freshest, they surround the camp on 3 sides. And then Gideon blows his horns, breaks his pitcher, and all 300 men do the exact same thing. So the 300, it's crazy. There's no swords in this battle plan at all. They're holding torches and they're holding horns. They shout, they break pitchers. They're just making a bunch of noise. And then the crazy thing happens. The Midianites start killing each other. The 300 men don't have to really even lift a finger. They don't fight anyone. They're just making noise in the dark. And the enemy, because they're confused and terrified, they hear a massive attack coming from 3 different sides. They can't identify, who's a friend and who's a foe in all the chaos, and they just start killing each other. Right? Crazy. So Eleanor, she says it right. She's like, I love this biblical story. Shows God's power. 100%. Like, it literally took 32,000 people, an army of 32,000, cut it down to 300 people to truly show that he is the only person that can truly make you be successful. I love it. It is literally Jennifer and Black Hat Destroyer, both of you guys said it. The original discombobulator talking about discombobulation, right? And in fact, we actually just got, when we were in Deadwood, I got the discombobulator. I do have it now. So I'm going to grab it real quick. We have a discombobulator now. So thank you. Thank you to Quilted Queen, Tone Ranger's wife. So Mrs. Tone Ranger. Man, so cool. I love Bible stories, man, are the coolest thing ever. So this is the coolest story. Who knew? And think about it, like if I were in that army, if we were 32,000 people and we came up on a town, on a village, I would absolutely 100% think that it was us that did it. This truly just shows God's power to be able to do anything and everything. On top of that, the battle cry names God first. It says, for the Lord and for Gideon. It's always God first and then Gideon. This is the right order. But we will see it get confused again. It's inevitable that we do away with being as close to we can with God. It happens. But at least we see in this story, this is the perfect story. As our president would say. The perfect story. Perfect attack. No notes. Oh, God. All right. Anyways, next up, the men of Ephraim join the battle. About time. Anyways, verse 24. Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim with this message. Come down to intercept the Midianites and take control of the watercourses ahead of them as far as Beth-Bera and the Jordan. So all the men of Ephraim were called out, and they took control of the watercourses as far as Beth-Bera and the Jordan. They captured Oreb and Zeb, the two princes of Midian. They killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb and Zeb at the wine presses of Zeb, while they were pursuing the Midianites. They brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon across the Jordan. Okay. Thanks for that. Anyways, Gideon calls on his fellow countrymen, the Naphtali's, Asher, Manasseh, to pursue the fleeing Midianites, basically to finish off the job. Ephraim does come, and they capture Oreb and Zeb, and those are the two princes of Midian. They kill Oreb at the rock and Zeb at the wine press, and they bring their heads to them. I did a little bit of research. Oreb and Zeb, they have meanings. The names mean raven and wolf. The two princes of the Locust army are named Raven and Wolf, which are predator names. They are killed at a rock and a wine press. Gideon's story. Where did it start, guys? At a wine press, where he hid. And it continues with an enemy prince killed at one. So these two names, Oreb and Zeb, became shorthand for divine military victory over impossible odds. Right? Tracy, she said nice visual before breakfast. You're welcome. Don't thank me, though. Thank God. Because he knew that you were going to be joining us for Bible study. And he knew that this was what we were going to be reading today. So, you're welcome. All right. Let's go ahead, and we have one last chapter to get to. But before we do that, I wanted to thank our last sponsor, And that, of course, is Rumble Wallet. We love them. We appreciate them. Okay. Hello? No? Interesting. Let's try this again. Rumble Wallet. Continue. There we go. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you've felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today, everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now, scan the QR code or click the link in that description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. So thank you, Rumble Wallet, for supporting this show. Let's get into our last chapter of today. It is chapter 8. And I know that I've seen a few of you guys jumping in and out of the stream. If you guys are new here, you haven't said hi in the chat, please say hi in the chat. We appreciate you and love you. Thank you. S. Anderson, look at you. Shannon, I appreciate you. She says, doing a quick hi. Hope you have a great Sunday. I hope you have a great Sunday, Shannon, and we'll love you and appreciate you. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. We are getting into Ephraim's complaint and how Gideon handles it. So, here we go. The men of Ephraim said to him, "Why have you done this to us, not calling us when you went to fight against the Midianites?" And they argued with him violently. So he said to them, "What have I done now compared to you? Is not the gleaning of Ephraim better than the grape harvest of Abiezer? God handed over to you Oreb and Zeb, the two princes of Midian. What was I able to do compared to you?" When he said this, their anger against him subsided. So, the men of Ephraim were not very happy. They're angry. They wanted to come and be part of the fun. We wanted to go fight with you, and they got Gideon. His response is a masterclass, basically, in de-escalation. He flatters them, he minimizes himself, and he gives them credit for the capture of the princes. And because they're human, their anger subsides and they keep going about their day. Let's see what happens next, though. Gideon pursues the kings of Midian. So, let's see what happens. Chapter 8, verse 4. Gideon and the 300 men came to the Jordan and crossed it. They were exhausted, but still in pursuit. He said to the men of Succoth, Please give some loaves of bread to the troops under my command, because they are exhausted. For I am pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." But the princes of Succoth asked, "Are Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hands that you should give bread to your army?" Gideon replied, "Very well. When the Lord has handed Zebah and Zalmunna over to me, I will tear your flesh with thorns and briars from the wilderness." Okay. He went from there to Penuel and asked for the same thing from them. The men of Penuel answered just as the men of Succoth had answered. He also told the men of Penuel, "When I return safely, I will tear down this tower." Well, that's unfortunate for them, because they're going to experience the wrath of Gideon. I'm almost positive of it. So, they're exhausted. They're going to go and, it's interesting. The logic here. They were Israelite towns, Succoth and Penuel are towns east of the Jordan. They had been living under Midianite pressure. If Gideon failed, they would face Midianite retaliation for helping him. Their refusal here was literally all just a self-preservation. It wasn't, for anything other than that. But it was also a failure of covenant solidarity. When Israel's deliverer comes exhausted to your door, asking for bread, you give him the bread. Gideon's response, though, is that when I return, I'm coming for the both of you. Sure enough, he does exactly that. So let's see what happens next. Verse 10. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and with them was their army of about 15,000 men, who were all those left of the entire army of the people of the east. Those who had been killed were on the 100, or one. Those who had been killed were 120,000 armed men. Yeesh. Gideon traveled on the caravan route east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and attacked their army while the army felt secure. Zebah and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued them. He captured these two kings of Midian and routed the entire army. So, 15,000 people left of 130,000 plus that had already been killed. That's crazy. But Gideon attacks a caravan. Both of the kings flee, and now the pursuit that started with 300 men and the pictures ends with the capture of 2 kings of Midian. So he gets the kings. Now comes the return. Succoth and Penuel. You should have done right from the beginning. But here we go. Verse 13. Gideon, son of Joash, returned from the battle by the ascent of Heres. He captured a youth from the men of Succoth and interrogated him. The youth wrote down for him the names of the 77 leaders and elders of Succoth. Then he went to the men of Succoth and said, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna. You taunt me about them, saying, are Zebah and Zalmunna now in your power that we should give bread to your exhausted men?" So he took the elders of the city. He took some thorns and briars from the wilderness, and he disciplined the men of Succoth with them. He also tore down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. Well, he should have listened. Gideon returned, and he disciplines the men of Succoth with the thorns and briars, just as he said he would, and he tears down the tower in Penuel and kills the men of the city. Succoth is disciplined, but not killed. Penuel's tower is torn down, and its men are killed. The difference in response may kind of reflect the difference in the refusal. Succoth's officials spoke contemptuously, while Penuel may have been more of an active hostility. Actively hostile. Anyways, but something has changed in Gideon between chapter 8 and now chapter 9. The man who threshed wheat in a winepress is now executing people who refuse to feed his army. The one guy who was a deliverer is beginning to act like the king. Obviously the narrator doesn't make any comments on it. He just reports what he sees, and we as the readers start to notice this. So let's see what else is going to happen here. Verse 18. He asked Zebah and Zalmunna, "What kind of men did you kill at Tabor?" "They were like you," they said. "Each resembled the son of a king." So he said, "They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As the Lord lives, if you had let them live, I would not kill you." Then he said to Jether, his firstborn, "Get up and kill them." The youth did not draw his sword, for he was afraid because he was still a youth. Zebah and Zalmunna said, "Get up and strike us down yourself, for a man is judged by his strength." So Gideon got up, killed Zebah and Zalmunna, and took the crescent ornaments that were on the necks of their camels. So, escalating a little bit more and more. Gideon, he kills off the brothers, And he before he does that, Zeba and Zalmunna say that he resembled the son of a king. And blood vengeance. Blood vengeance. This is it. Gideon's killing of the kings is not just military completion. He is now an avenger of blood, fulfilling the obligation to a dead family member. So he tells his firstborn Jether and to get up there and kill him. Jether is afraid because he's still young, and Gideon just does it himself. Interesting, last thing to note before we get into Gideon's legacy, the crescent ornaments. What he does is he takes the crescent ornaments from the necks of their camels. This detail will occur again in verse 26, but we'll see what he does with this, because they're not just going away. So let's get into verse 22 now. So now we're getting into Gideon's legacy. 22. Then the Israelites said to Gideon, "Rule over us, you as well as your sons and your grandsons, for you delivered us from the power of Midian." But Gideon said to them, "I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you." Those are the best words right there. So Gideon is correct. Gideon, he may be acting, a little king-like. Israel already has a king. And that's why it's important for Gideon to call it out. And their king is God. The request for a human dynastic ruler is a rejection of the covenant framework that makes the judges possible. So Gideon names it correctly. The Lord will rule. And then he asks for the earrings. Here we go with these earrings. Stupid earrings. 24. Then he said to them, "Let me make a request of you. Everyone give me an earring from his plunder." Not the enemy. Now the enemy had gold earrings because they were Ishmaelites. They said, "We agree to give them." So they spread out a cloak, and everyone threw an earring from his plunder on it. The weight of the gold earrings he requested was 43 pounds of gold, in addition to the crescent ornaments and ear pendants, the purple garments on the kings of Midian, and the chains on the necks of their camels. Gideon made an ephod from all this and put it in Ophrah, his hometown. Then Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and his household. So, things were going well. Things were going good. Gideon was doing the right thing. He was saying the right things. And then he has to go and make an ephod. For those that don't remember, an ephod, well, he collects gold. That's the first thing. He collects 43 pounds of gold, plus the crescent ornaments from the camels' necks, the ear pendants, and purple garments, and chains. Gideon makes an ephod. Ephod is like the clothes, I think. Let me make sure I'm saying that right. Ephod.
See, this is why we can't have nice things.
The ephod is the breastplate. It's the garments of the high priest.
So we can't have nice things.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, like Trumpet said, no idols. And it is what it is. But an ephod is part of the high priest's vestments, a garment used in seeking divine guidance. In its proper context, it is connected to the Urim and Thummim, and it is a legitimate instrument of discerning God's will. But Gideon's specific ephod is made from war plunder, and it is placed in his hometown instead of the central sanctuary. This then makes it an object of worship. He didn't intend to create an idol, but he created one anyway. And it's funny because the man who tore down his father's Baal altar at God's command ends up creating a religious object that leads all of Israel into the same behavior. So, it's interesting also to note the language. It literally says that they prostituted themselves. And a snare. This is the same language used for Israel's Baal worship throughout the entire Bible and the book itself of Judges. Then we see the crescent ornaments again. The ornaments he specifically took from the king's camels, possibly associated with moon worship because of crescents and all of that, are now incorporated into this worship object. So what began as plunder is now becoming a spiritual trap. And let's go ahead and see how we end this chapter and set us up for Thursday. Here we go with verse 28. So Midian was subdued before the Israelites, and they were no longer a threat. The land had peace for 40 years during the days of Gideon. Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, son of Joash, went back to live at his house. Gideon had 70 sons, his own offspring, since he had many wives. His concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he named him Abimelech. Then Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. When Gideon died, the Israelites turned and prostituted themselves in worshipping the Baals and made Baal-berith their god. The Israelites did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the hand of the enemies around them. They did not show kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, for all the good he had done for Israel. What a shame. What a shame. We all, what started off as a really, really good story ended like this. So, Midian is said dude. They get rest for 40 years. And then, goes through all of Abimelech's, all the way up to Abimelech. And it's interesting. But the gap between the words and the actions is total. Gideon had many wives. This is a pattern of ancient Near Eastern kings. He had a concubine in Shechem, which is the most politically significant city, the site of covenant renewal. He fathered 70 sons, the size of a royal court, and he gave one of them the name that means my father is king. That's pretty big. But that's what Abimelech means, by the way. And then it says on verse 32 that Gideon died at a good old age. If you guys remember, the narrator doesn't say that he followed the Lord as he did with O'Neill. No, he just died and he was old. And so now we see the contrast. We saw the contrast from Thursday with O'Neill being the template judge. He was like the official. This is the one that we're going to follow. And then now we see this contrast, and it is what it is. And of course, as soon as Gideon dies, not after a generation, not gradually, not any of that, immediately, the faith of Israel was held in place by the presence of one man, collapsed instantly. Baal-berith is Baal of the covenant, so the Canaanite deity worshipped at Shechem, the same Shechem where Gideon's concubine lived, the same Shechem where him and his son Abimelech will be based in the next chapter. So let's get into some more idol worship. Why don't we? So that is chapter 8. We didn't end on a high note, unfortunately, but it's going to set us up for what's to come in the next chapter. So let's go ahead and pray. Let's go ahead and pray before we end today. If you're watching this, you didn't hop in the chat at all throughout the show, just say hi real quick. Promise I won't bite. Nobody will even respond to you. How about that? I can't make any promises though, because our chat is very friendly. But say hi in the chat, and then oh, thanks Cam. He says hi real quick. You already did your unique chat though, so it doesn't count. If you guys haven't chatted in any of my shows before, chat now. So you're welcome. Anyways, let's go ahead and pray. Father God, thank you for another opportunity to come together and bless you and give you thanks. Lord, thank you for your word. We couldn't do what we do without you. Lord, thank you for another week that we are about to walk into. Lord, thank you for keeping us safe and protected and healthy. Lord, I ask you to come into every house and heart that is of every person that is listening or watching right now, Lord, or on replay. Lord, I ask you to come and fulfill whatever need that they have, whether it be financial or physical or mental or whatever it is, Lord. You know what they need, and I know that it is already done in Jesus' name. Lord, I also ask you to come right now and to bless and protect our country. Also bless and protect our president as we give him all of the good vibes and also the wisdom to be able to keep leading us. Lord, I ask you to bless and protect us all in this new week. Keep us safe if we are traveling, and bless us and protect us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Yes. So thank you guys. Appreciate you. And that's Bible study for today. A few things before we get out of here. Holy cow. Black Hat Destroyer in the chat said, you heard about South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham passing away last night? What? I did not hear that. I had not heard that. That's crazy. Well, I thought it was going to be Mitch McConnell, but guess not. He'll be next. Anyways, that's crazy. Thank you, Black Hat Destroyer. Kind of wild. Let me check to see. I did have a Venmo come through, I think. Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's see. I had a Venmo come through, $10 from, $10 from Trumpet. She says, love this show. Thanks, Jackie. Thank you. Thank you so much, Trumpet. Appreciate you. I also saw $5 come through here from ZBM. She says, still lurking while watching the kiddos. Happy Sunday, Jackie and friends. Down the hatch, y'all. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You guys truly don't have to do any of that, but it's always welcome and appreciated. Let's see what else we have going on. I wanted to let you guys know, if you guys have not already taken the quiz. I made a quiz last week, and it is a fun quiz. It is, let me pull it up so that you guys can see it. Boop. Here it is. Go to this screen. So what's your Bible personality type? It is a quick 2-minute quiz. It is free. It is a good time. I will drop that in the chat. You guys can take the quiz at your leisure. I promise I'm not, doing anything crazy or anything like that. You can take the quiz if you'd like. There's also freebies attached to it, depending on what your style is. So there's that. And I also created, for those that are in my Telegram chat, I created a Bible study resource for you. It is the Overthinkers Journal. And actually, let me pull that in here because I have it right here. No, it's not this one. Oh, wait, it is this one. So the Overthinkers Journal is a way for you guys to do your Bible study and write down and actually feel like you're doing something with your Bible study. So here it is. Here's the Overthinkers Journal. Let me zoom out so that you guys can see it. So the Overthinkers Journal, it's a place for every Bible study you'll ever do. So I'm looking into actually getting this as a printed version as well, and hopefully getting this out to you guys. But for those that are in my Telegram chat, I dropped it in there for free for you guys to give me any feedback, anything like that. So here we go. This is it. It literally is just a workbook with all of these. They're blank pages for you to go in, fill out your book and passage, what you're studying, all of that, what your prompts for us overthinkers, because I know that we're overthinking, and then of course a space for you to write down any notes that you may have. So this is a free option for you guys that I created specifically for you, as well as the quiz. So the quiz is there. I'm also in the process of creating more things. So if you guys have any ideas of resources and tools that you may need or want for Bible study, please let me know, because I would love to be able to create that for you. So that is that thing. And then I saw a question in the chat. Trumpet, she says, when's the next Atlanta meetup? I'm thinking probably not October, August. August will probably be the first time that we can actually do one, unless we like pull something together before July, before the end of July, because Cam and I are going to be away this weekend, or this week, and then probably next weekend, in the process of, coming back into reality. So we're going to be gone this week, so we won't be able to do anything this week. And then, of course, July's, 2 weeks. So what I'll do is I will put a poll in the Atlanta group as soon as we get off here now, see what people's availability is like in August, and have that scheduled now so that we don't have to scramble at the last minute to try to figure something out. And I'm thinking at this point, what we could do is, I liked the market, the Marietta Square Market. It's been a good place for us because it has all these different options of food and drinks and stuff. So if we could find something like that, maybe in a different place, that would be cool too. So that's what we've got going on as far as that goes. Check out tonight, Bay Theater Dave and I are going live at 7 p.m. to discuss season 5, episode 3 of The Chosen. That's going to be a good one. It is a fantastic episode. You guys have plenty of time to watch the episode if you haven't watched it already. I think that's it. Hit the thumbs up. Share the show out with a friend. If you guys, as soon as I'm done with this show, I'm going to open up GBS for tonight. If you guys want, share that link out with people. Tell them to drop in the chat. Because I'm still looking for 35 unique chatters. So even if it's in Telegram, let them know. Hey, go drop in the chat and say hi. So appreciate you guys for helping me. Love you guys. God bless each and every one of you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.